Afternoon and welcome to the June Heritage Kitchener meeting. And it's a nice, sunny, warm day over the top. One never knows. All right. First of all, disclosure of pecuniary interest and or the general nature thereof, any pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we'll now proceed to our discussion items. And the first one, Heritage Permit Application HPA 2025 IV 011 122 Frederick Street, the Registry Theatre, and its repairs to the carved limestone parapet and capstones. And Michelle Drake, our Senior Heritage Planner, will make a presentation on this. Michelle.
Thank you, Chair Halboom. The subject property is located on the west side of Frederick Street between Weber and Spetz within the Civic District Cultural Heritage Landscape. The Registry Theatre, which is the former County of Waterloo Registry Office, was built in 1939 by Dunker Construction. The building is an outstanding example of an Art Deco, of the Art Deco architecture, and the property is individually designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The designating bylaw identifies several external heritage attributes, including all elevations and roof lines, and specifically mentions the limestone parapet. The applicant is proposing to repair the carved limestone parapet and capstones. In general, the scope of work will involve the systematic removal of the parapet stones and capstones to investigate the condition of the parapet wall itself, followed by the replacement or resetting and repointing of the parapet stones and capstones. This will involve the removal and storage of stones, the type of mortar to be used for repointing, the methods to mix the mortar, the equipment to be used for the removal of the existing mortar, the qualification requirements for the individual completing the masonry repairs, and the steps to repoint the existing stone mortar joints and the equipment to be used in this repointing process. In terms of the merits of the application, the subject property is designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Drawing S1, which was labeled as the carved parapet stone investigation, was prepared by Tacoma Engineers, and the individual who prepared that drawing is an interim member with the Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals. The proposed repairs to the carved limestone and capstones will extend the life of this parapet feature. The stones will be documented to ensure proper reinstallation. The steps to remove, store, protect the stones until they are reinstalled have been outlined and are in keeping with good conservation practice. The type of mortar, being a lime-based mortar with a compressive strength that does not exceed that of the existing mortar or surrounding masonry, will be used, and the methods to mix that mortar are in keeping with good conservation practice. The equipment to be used for the removal of the mortar is designed to minimize damage to the stones. They do provide a reference to if they use not to use a concrete chipping hammer, but that if they use a mortar saw, then they should not use a mortar grinder. The masonry work, the cutting and the repointing, shall be completed by a qualified mason having at least 5 years of documented experience and shall have completed at least 3 projects of comparable size and scope within the last 5 years. The steps to repoint the mortar joints have been outlined and are in keeping with good conservation practice. All masons shall use identical pointing tools to match the profile and details of the existing joints. The masonry repairs are in keeping with the Parks Canada standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places in Canada, as well as the ministry's 8 guiding principles for the conservation of built heritage resources referenced in the staff report. Heritage planning staff will review and approve the proposed mortar, the detailing of the proposed capstone joints, the methods and design details associated with installing a drip edge if required on the capstones, and the methods to repair or replace masonry if any damage occurs during the work. To ensure that these works follow good conservation practice, including the aforementioned standards and guidelines and principles. And then finally, the repairs of the carved limestones and capstones will not adversely affect the character of the property or the facade of the building itself. And so it is my recommendation that pursuant to Section 33 of the Ontario Heritage Act, Heritage Permit Application HPA 2025, Roman numeral 4, application number 11, be approved to permit the repair of the carved limestone parapet and capstones at the Registry Theatre on the property municipally addressed as 122 Frederick Street, in accordance with the supplementary information submitted with the application, subject to the following conditions. 1, that samples of existing mortar and proposed mortar and the detailing of the capstone joints be reviewed and approved by Heritage Planning staff prior to commencing work. That the methods and design details associated with installation of a drip edge, if required, along the full width of the capstones be reviewed and approved by Heritage Planning staff prior to installing a drip edge. And then further, that the methods to repair or replace the masonry, if there is any damage during the course of the work, will be reviewed and approved by Heritage Planning staff prior to commencing those repairs to the masonry. That does conclude my presentation. I can advise you that we do have a staff person, Mike Metz, if I've got your last name correct, from Facilities Management here. He does not have a presentation to provide, but if there are questions that I'm not able to answer, he may be able to answer those questions.
Thank you, Michelle. And thank you, staff from Facilities coming in. Are there any questions for either Michelle or Facilities staff? Debbie or Councillor Chapman?
No, that's okay. I just wonder, is the facility going to be closed during this work, or can it stay open?
Through the chair, the tenant has identified a time frame, I believe in August, where they do not require the use of the facility. And I think the idea is to hopefully align with that timing so that there is no closure required that would impact the tenant that's there today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, I do have one question. The registry runs a very good program, excellent events, like songs and dances and speeches and so on. And it seemed to me that they would be having programming over the summer. And I just wondered, is there a comment that can be made how this might work together? I'm assuming that the programming doesn't have to shut down while it's being worked on.
Through the chair, the tenant has advised that they do have a shutdown of some programming, I believe in August, and I think the intent was ideally for the city to align with that shutdown in order to have those works completed. But if for some reason that can't be met, definitely the city would be working with the tenant to ensure that the least amount of impact to their business would occur in order to make these repairs.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll then proceed to the motion. Pursuant to Section 33 of the Ontario Heritage Act, Heritage Permit Application HBA 2025 IV 011 be approved as outlined in Development Services Department Report DSD 2025-242 to permit the repair of the carved limestone parapet and capstones at the Registry Theatre on the property municipally addressed as 122 Frederick Street, in accordance with the supplementary information submitted with the application, subject to the following conditions. 1, samples of existing mortar and proposed mortar and the detailing of the capstone joints be reviewed and approved by Heritage Planning staff prior to commencing repointing. 2, that the methods and design details associated with installing a drip edge, if required, along the full width of the capstones to be reviewed and approved by Heritage Planning staff prior to installing a drip edge, and further, 3, that methods to repair or replace masonry, if damaged during work, be reviewed and approved by Heritage Planning staff prior to commencing work to repair or replace masonry. Now, who would like to move the motion? Thank you, Laura. Any other questions to staff about the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried unanimously, so it will be dealt with delegated authority. Thank you. Item 4.2, Heritage Permit Application HBA 2025 IV 012 119 Arlington Boulevard. And this is the Catholic Mausoleum in Woodland Cemetery, repairs to the exterior steps and cleaning of exterior of the building, DSD 2025-247. And again, Michelle Drake, our Senior Heritage Planner, will present. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, as mentioned, this is Heritage Permit Application 2025, Roman numeral 4, number 12. It pertains to the property municipally addressed as 119 Arlington Boulevard, more commonly known as Woodland Cemetery. That particular property is located north of Weber Street, and it can be accessed by vehicle or foot from Arlington Boulevard, and also by foot from Franklin Street North. And generally, it's surrounded by residential properties and Idlewood Park to the rear. For those that may not be familiar with this cemetery, there are 2 mausoleums, and so the mausoleum that I am talking about this evening is the Roman Catholic Mausoleum. So the Catholic Mausoleum at Woodland Cemetery is designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The applicant is proposing to repair the exterior steps and clean the exterior of the building. Designating bylaw 86-250 identifies all elevations and all stained glass windows as heritage attributes of the building. The repair of the exterior steps will involve the removal of the top landing limestone and replacement with a new Flint Hills limestone to match the existing, topside concrete repairs to the base slab, installation of a new adhesive membrane on top of the existing concrete structure, removal of both copestones for review by engineer to identify and carry out necessary repairs, reinstallation or resetting of both copestones, removal and replacement of non-original poured concrete steps to match the existing, and removal and reinstallation of the non-original guardrail. The scope of work may also require the removal of mortar and repointing with an approved mortar that has a compressive strength less than that of the existing mortar and surrounding stone. The scope and methods for cleaning the building are not yet confirmed. The city has retained Lyman Group, which employs members of the Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals, and the method for cleaning will likely involve moderated steam cleaning. Chemical cleaning will not be permitted. Heritage planning staff will review and approve the scope and methods for cleaning to ensure that the work complies with heritage conservation practices, including the Federal Parks Canada standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places in Canada, and the Provincial Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism's 8 guiding principles in the conservation of built heritage properties, as well as the U.S. Department of the Interior's National Park Service Cultural Resource Heritage Preservation Services Preservation Brief 1, which addresses assessing cleaning and water repellent treatments for historic masonry. In terms of the merits of the application, the subject property is designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Drawing I think it's SK1, labeled as the front stair repairs, was prepared by Tacoma Engineers and was prepared by an individual who is a full member of the Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals. The proposed repairs will extend the life of the exterior steps. The steps to remove, store, and protect the stones until they are reinstalled have been outlined and are in keeping with good conservation practices. Heritage planning staff will review and approve the proposed replacement limestone to ensure that it is an appropriate match. Heritage planning staff will review and approve the proposed mortar to ensure that it is lime-based with a compressive strength that does not exceed that of the existing mortar or masonry surrounding it, and therefore that it is in keeping with good heritage conservation practices. Heritage planning staff will approve the materials and methods to clean the exterior of the building to ensure that they are in keeping with heritage conservation practices, including the earlier mentioned the federal standards, as well as the U.S. Preservation Brief number 1. Heritage planning staff will also review and approve the surface cleaning tests to the exterior of the building to ensure that they are in keeping with good heritage conservation practice, that they are not damaging the surface itself before allowing the building as a whole to be cleaned. And then finally, the repair of the exterior steps and the cleaning of the exterior building will not adversely affect the character of the property nor the facade of the building. And so based on that information, it is my recommendation that pursuant to Section 33 of the Ontario Heritage Act, Heritage Permit Application HPA 2025 Roman numeral 4 Application 12 be approved to permit the repair of the exterior steps and cleaning of the exterior of the Catholic Mausoleum building in the Woodland Cemetery on the property municipally addressed as 119 Arlington Boulevard in accordance with the supplementary information submitted with the application, subject to the following conditions. 1, that samples of the proposed replacement limestone be reviewed and approved by heritage planning staff prior to commencing work. 2, that samples of existing mortar and proposed mortar and the detailing of the side cope wall joints be reviewed and approved by heritage planning staff prior to commencing work. That the materials and methods, that the materials and methods to clean the exterior of the building be reviewed and approved by heritage planning staff prior to commencing work. And then further, 4, that surface cleaning tests be reviewed and approved by heritage planning staff prior to proceeding with the cleaning of the exterior of the Catholic Mausoleum building. That is the end of my presentation. Similar to the previous application, one of our colleagues from Facilities Management, Bruce Mill, is here this evening. He does not have a presentation, but should there be any questions that I can't answer, he is here and may be able to answer them.
Thank you, Michelle. Are there questions for staff? Yes, Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, sorry. I just wondered, I've never noticed before this reference to the U.S. Department of the Interior National Park Service Cultural Resources Heritage Preservation Services. Is this a new thing, or have I just not seen it or just overlooked it?
Through the chair, it's not new. I believe some of those briefs date back as far as the 70s. They are a wealth of knowledge. Most of our guiding documents often have some level of detail that help us make a recommendation to this committee, but sometimes they don't. So the ministry principles do not address cleaning, and the federal standards were relatively silent on cleaning, especially as it relates to limestone. And so I referred to another known and acknowledged source of appropriate good conservation practice to help me understand what might be appropriate for that process.
Okay, thank you. The other question, this might be for Garrett. So, you know, it's these two sites that we've looked at so far at this meeting, the Registry Theatre and this one. I mean, these are city assets, right? And I had no idea that this Mussolini, how do you say it, even existed, right? So what does the city do to sort of celebrate these things? And is there a place that you can go and see, you know, an overview of all of the heritage buildings that the city actually owns? Because they're worth celebrating.
Through you, Madam Chair. So that actually aligns with work that we're doing right now with facilities management. So across of all of the hundreds of resources that the city owns, whether that's buildings, artifacts, or even fixtures in parks, buildings, we are doing an assessment of all of the couple hundred to determine which ones are designated, which one would then require special care. And the inventory and categorization of that work is ongoing, and then how we will store that and share that is to be determined. I know that for some of our buildings and assets, we participated in Doors Open, and we have done open houses with some of our facilities. So I know we're with the Registry Theatre and other new assets as part of our culture venues. We are looking at ways to showcase these, whether they're new buildings or buildings that we are reimagining. So it's work that's ongoing, and we can report back once we know more. But right now it's doing an inventory and understanding what we need to do in order to maintain all of these resources.
Right, that's great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Any other questions for staff? Yes, Laura.
Thanks. Through the chair, I was just thinking of other education opportunities and just thinking of the University of Waterloo, and they have the School of Architecture. And I was just wondering if there was any opportunities for our local architecture students to observe or be involved in the restoration process as a learning opportunity.
Through the chair, some of the local academic institutions do reach out to our department at various times of the year, and anything from like middle school and high schools all the way up to the colleges and the universities. I have never received a request from that particular program, but we definitely have had requests, typically more for work related to the preparation of cultural heritage resource evaluation reports. We've been having those requests come from the University of Waterloo's planning program, as well as from, I now understand Conestoga College also has a planning related, or an architect, or possibly both, architecture related program with a heritage component, and they have reached out to us for those. I'm sure, particularly with a city-owned asset, that if there was an opportunity for them to learn, we could have the conversation, but I don't know what that would look like unless they expressed interest.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Any other questions? I have one. With respect to the sample, I'm assuming that there will be a test patch done of cleaning, and I wondered, sometimes it takes a bit of a time to dry and look. Do you have any comments about that, or any plans for the time and checking on the sampling?
Through the chair, I believe condition number 4 is the surface cleaning test. So yes, they will have to conduct a surface cleaning test. Once that application has been done and dried, then I will come on site to review with the individual who has performed the work, likely FM staff. And at that point, if there's concerns, we'll step back and discuss what those next steps are. If there are no concerns, then I would allow the work to proceed based on that test panel.
Michelle, I realize you've done extensive research, and especially with reference to the EUS outlines in the heritage areas of this. Is there any, did they give you any, or maybe you can't recall this at the moment, but do they give you like any approximate time of like a wait time between application and then checking out the sample?
So through the chair, the exact materials and methods are not yet known. So that is one condition of the application, is that that information be provided to me and that I be satisfied with that information, or designate, if for some reason I'm not here, Heritage Planning staff, has approval of that condition. And so the work cannot proceed until we are comfortable with the materials, with the methods, understand what cure time there is, the test be done, we wait that period, and then assuming there are no concerns, then allowing that work to proceed.
Thank you, and I think you specified it, the cure time. That's it. Good. Any other questions for staff? Yes, Peter.
Yes, I have a question regarding the cleaning of the building. The masonry, or the sort of carved stone of these kind of buildings are designed so that as they age and as they accumulate dirt, they get better looking, right? So the patina in the sort of the three-dimensional reliefs and the connections are often designed to get dirty and look better as time goes on. So it's kind of a judgment call when it comes to cleaning these kind of buildings, is how much do you remove? And I guess my concern is that has any consideration been given to the potential of not over cleaning the building and then sort of cleaning away the desirable patina, and then we would have to wait another 50 years so it would have that nice look again. I'm just wondering if that any consideration was given for that.
Through the chair, I can provide a response, and perhaps Bruce may also have information. I did ask those questions of the facilities management team because the example of using the preservation brief around cleaning does talk about, carefully considering why you're cleaning and the extent that you need to clean, and that perhaps some level of cleaning may be appropriate, but possibly not the entire. So that is still something that can be discussed and coordinated through the conditions of the approval. But that was my perspective purely from a heritage conservation lens. I know that facilities is working on behalf of the tenants, which perhaps sounds odd, but that being cemetery staff who have an interest in cleaning the building. As from their perspective, I believe it's perceived that it will look nicer if it's cleaned. So as I say that out loud, perhaps there's also an opportunity to have a conversation about the design of the buildings and the patina and what level is appropriate with respect to cleaning the building.
Thank you, Michelle. Peter, food for thought? We'll leave it there? All right, thank you. Any other questions for staff? If not, we'll proceed to the motion. Pursuant to Section 33 of the Ontario Heritage Act, Heritage Permit Application HPA 2025 IV 012 be approved as outlined in Development Services Department Report DSD 2025-247 to permit the repair of the exterior steps and cleaning of the exterior of the Catholic Mausoleum building in the Woodlands Cemetery on the property municipally addressed as 119 Arlington Boulevard, in accordance with the supplementary information submitted with the application, subject to the following conditions: that samples of the proposed replacement limestone be reviewed and approved by Heritage Planning staff prior to commencing work, that samples of existing mortar and proposed mortar and the detailing of the side cope wall joints be reviewed and approved by Heritage Planning staff prior to commencing work, that the materials and methods to clean the exterior of the building be reviewed and approved by Heritage Planning staff prior to commencing work, and further, number 4, the surface cleaning tests be reviewed and approved by Heritage Planning staff prior to proceeding with cleaning the entire exterior of the building. Any questions on that? Who would like to move this? Councillor Chapman, any other questions? All those in favor of it? Thank you. I just hope that it doesn't turn out too glistening white as a piece of new architecture, and we shall see. So, thank you. 4.3, notice of intention to designate 1865 Huron Road under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, DSD 2025-240. Michelle Drake, Senior Heritage Planner, will present.
Through the chair. So as referenced, this is a notice of intention to designate for the property municipally addressed as 1865 Huron Road. This property has come to the Heritage Kitchener previously through our Municipal Heritage Register review reports, and this committee did direct staff to proceed with finalizing a report recommending that we proceed with the notice of intention to designate. This property meets 3 of 9 criteria for designation, and that criteria includes the design physical, the historic associative, as well as the contextual values. The design and physical value relates to the age, material, and method of construction. The west wing of the farmhouse is a rare example of a strapped log construction, while the east wing is a representative example of lath construction. The heritage attributes include log and lath construction, roof and roof line, clapboard siding, which is currently covered by a layer of insul brick and a layer of aluminum siding, symmetrical window placements, original door and window openings, including the round window opening on the east elevation. And I'll just note that this particular round window is something that has come up in other buildings in the southwest area of the city. So it does appear to be somewhat unique to this particular area of the city. There are also a veranda with a hip roof on the south elevation. That would be the elevation that faces Huron Road. And then we have reports, although we have not been in the building ourselves, there are historic reports that indicate the building contains interior original interior baseboards, casings, and doors, as well as there being a plaster wall that's inscribed with the date 1885. In terms of the historical associative value, the property has direct associations with the theme of early pioneer settlement, early pioneer farming, and farming in general. The lands are part of Bechtel's Tract, and the property was once part of a larger lot owned originally by Abraham Cressman circa 1861. The property has additional direct associations with the Salins family. The property was purchased by James Henry Salins in 1924. He was a local blacksmith known for making horseshoes, sleighs, and farm wagons. He was also a member of the Rosebank Brethren in Christchurch. One of his sons, Williard Lewis Salins, operated a farm machinery business known as Salins Equipment at 1876 Huron Road, so like a stone's throw away, for 30 years. In 1985, that particular business became the biggest farm machinery dealership in Eastern Canada for a type of farm equipment, which I'm probably not going to pronounce correctly, Deutz Alice Chalmers Manufacturing. Willard himself is recognized across North America within what is known as the tractor pulling community for his skill at announcing and judging competitions. And then the third value being the contextual value. The physical location of the building is oriented towards the street and is also in close proximity to Huron Road, which would have facilitated the use of the blacksmith shop and other later commercial uses. The property is also visually connected to 1876 Huron Road, where the Salins Equipment Company had operated on the south side of the road, west of the subject property. So it is my recommendation that pursuant to Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, that the clerk be directed to publish a notice of intention to designate the property municipally addressed as 1865 Huron Road as being of cultural heritage value or interest. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Michelle. Are there any questions of staff on this one? Just a comment, it is amazing how many log cabins, log structures are hidden away under some type of cladding out in the south end of Kitchener, out in the farm areas, and how many of them continue to survive, which is good to see. All right, seeing no questions for staff, the motion that pursuant to Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, the clerk be directed to publish a notice of intention to designate the property municipally addressed as to, I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself here. Pursuant as Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, the clerk be directed to publish a notice of intention to designate the property municipally addressed as 1865 Huron Road as being of cultural heritage value or interest, as outlined in Development Services Department Report, DSD 2025-240. Who will move this? Preston. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. And this report will be forwarded to Council June 23rd, 2025. And now, 241, 247 Duke Street West, 55 Victoria Street North, in notice of intention to designate under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. And again, Michelle Drake, Senior Heritage Planner, will present.
Through the chair, as mentioned, this is a notice of intention to designate for a property that's on a corner lot. So it has two municipal addresses, 241 to 247 Duke Street West, as well as 55 Victoria Street North. In terms of the criteria for designation, the property meets 5 of 9 criteria, and it's recognized for its design, physical, historic, associative, and contextual values. In terms of design physical value, the building is a representative example of early 20th century vernacular industrial architecture in Berlin, now Kitchener. The original 1913 portion of the building features elements characteristic of early vernacular industrial architecture, including the flat roof, the buff yellow brick, a regular arrangement of windows, and minimal ornamentation. Decorative features include a horizontal brick band under the cornice and above the foundation, dentils under the cornice band, and brick pilasters that separate the door and window openings. An addition constructed after 1925 on the east side of the building, so that's the Duke Street elevation, replicates the building in terms of mass, setback, roof line, and pilasters of the original building, but does not have any of the ornamentation in terms of the corning and brick banding and such. In terms of the historical associative value, the building reflects the work of an architect, Charles Knechtel, who is significant to Berlin. He opened his own business in 1895 and operated until 1930. Over 100 buildings were designed by him, including churches, commercial blocks, factories, homes, schools, etc. In 1913, he built a large warehouse on Victoria Street for John Sloan and Company. Further, the historical associative value relates to its connection to commercial development during the early part of the 20th century in Berlin. The building was first occupied in 1913 by John Sloan and Co., which was a wholesale grocer and one of only 2 that existed at the time in Berlin. The location was important given its proximity to the railway spur line that ran along Victoria Street North and enabled easy transport of produce to the warehouse itself. Historical associative value also relates to the connection of the building to a well-known local electrical and lighting company called Bergen Electric, and its owner, Robert William Bergen, who was an electrician who owned and operated several companies over the years. He purchased this building from the Sloan estate in 1950 and was instrumental in the formation of the Ontario Electrical Contractors Association, as well as encouraged local farmers to use hydro instead of coal oil at their farms. In addition to the information that was provided in the report, Councillor Chapman did share with Garrett and I today some additional information. Perhaps I'll leave it for you to share during the comment period, but there are some, she has a connection to the property. I'll leave it there. Suspense. In terms of contextual value, the building plays a role in maintaining and supporting the character of both the Warehouse District Cultural Heritage Landscape as well as the streetscapes that it is adjacent to. The subject property supports these heritage values and tributes through its height, mass, setback, vernacular architecture, and original use as a warehouse. The building is historically linked to the Canadian National Railway, which delivered produce and goods via a spur line, which permitted freight cars to pull up directly alongside the north elevation of this building. And based on that information, it is my recommendation that pursuant to Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, the clerk be directed to publish a notice of intention to designate the property municipally addressed as 241 to 247 Duke Street West, as well as 55 Victoria Street North, as being of cultural heritage value or interest. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Michelle. Are there questions for Michelle? Seeing none at the moment, but Michelle has indicated that there's additional information And Councillor Chapman, would you like to share this?
Sure. I just wanted to, I pointed out to Michelle earlier today that my father, who was a city councillor in Kitchener from 62 to 76, also rented space in that building for several years, and I don't know how many. And my mother couldn't recall the dates, but they had several businesses there. WB Dry Goods was purchased by my father, and then that converted into Wooltex, and they had a Chapman Sewing Center, so there was presence of the family there. So I just wanted to share that information because of his role in the city as a businessman and a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and several things that he did during his life in that space. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Councillor Chapman. And I do believe that this information presented should be part of the record. And Councillor Chapman was, Father Councillor Chapman was a councillor for, what, 14 years with the city? 15?
And the region. At that time, councillors some of them would sit on the regional council as well as the city, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Great. If not, the motion is pursuant to Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, the clerk be directed to publish a notice of intention to designate the property municipally addressed as 241, 247 Duke Street West, 55 Victoria Street North, as being of cultural heritage value or interest as outlined in Development Services Department Report DSD 2025-241. And who would move this recommendation? Thank you, Natalie. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And this notice of intention to designate for 247 Duke Street West, 55 Victoria Street will be forwarded to Council June 23, 2025 for consideration. Thank you. And now we come to our status updates. Bill 23, Municipal Heritage Register Review. And it looks as if there are no updates this month.
Through the chair, that is correct.
We know that you're hard at work. You're not slacking off, correct?
Absolutely. Wink.
Thank you very much. All right. Are there any other questions for staff on the Heritage Register Review? And some of us have little assignments that need to be completed before the end of June and handed back to staff to further evaluate buildings. And so we'll do our best to get them to you. And are there any other comments? Now to our information item, the Heritage Permit Application Tracking Sheet, and I think you've seen that. And I do have a question for staff, and perhaps Mr. Stevenson, Garrett, you could tell me what the procedure is and what's happening to the Dune Mill Wall, the ruin on Mill Park Drive. I know that the approval was supposed to go to budget to work on it, and Tacoma seemed to have the contract. And I'm looking at it as I go past it. It's in kind of a sorry-looking state. So is there an update on it?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm looking at my colleagues. So we believe that the heritage review and approval permitting process is complete, and so we're not sure of construction start dates. So we can follow up by email. I can get that answer easily tomorrow and follow up with the committee by email.
Thank you very much. I'd appreciate it, and I'm sure Councillor Michaud's constituents will also appreciate knowing. In one of our reports today, we talk about, it talks about heritage and the importance of designation, and I have a quote, critical role in the conservation of cultural resources. And I'm just wondering whether there was money put in the budget, extra money, to help those people who are doing restoration on features of the designated properties. And I don't believe, perhaps it was shared, but I can't recall whether there was additional money set aside for heritage repairs, or if the amount allotted remains. Can someone tell me about that?
Through you, Madam Chair, as part of our update to the Heritage Grant Program, not only did we increase the amount of grants that property owner can apply for, but there has also been a corresponding increase in budget. So now there's more money that's been allotted to this grant program, which is going to help with the number of designations, which is up in property owners in maintaining their property.
Very good, thank you. Not a homeowner, but a person in the neighborhood of the Victoria Park Conservation District did share a concern about a owner's roof, which is a wood shingled roof, and it now needs work. And to replace the wood shingles is a considerable amount. And so I don't know whether the person has applied or knows to apply, but certainly it'll be one of the bigger projects coming as a request, I would assume. So thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, Meg.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that general theme, is there a consideration, like the cap for individual property owners or individual properties, is there a consideration of distinguishing between, for example, single dwellings, homes, houses, versus larger buildings? I'm just wondering what, perhaps if this information is available, if we could get, like if it's online or something, if we could get that forwarded to us. But I'm just wondering in general, is there a single cap, or is there a, for example, you know, a building with 40 apartments in it versus a single home, a single dwelling? Is there a distinction in the caps? And how would that, you know, have that work in terms of accounting for the size of a building, the number of dwellings, and so forth? Thank you.
So through the chair, there's no distinction in terms of single dwellings in terms of the people living. There is a distinction between the work that's being proposed. So we have a two-tier system. One is your general projects, general maintenance, a small projects kind of thing, and there's a special projects, which is more sort of intensive work, more expensive, so structural foundation repairs, and Jessica, jump in whenever you want to. Structural foundation repairs, projects of a bigger scale. So there's a distinction in terms of the work that is proposed. There's not been a lot of consideration in terms of, you know, how many units there are, or how many people that are living in a given space. That information is available on our website, but I can have that information forwarded to you.
Just to kind of build off of that, the two-tier system is something that we're just introducing this year. We only did the update to the program last year. So this category to allow for work that's maybe more expensive to provide some more money is something new that we're just doing this year. And we have worked into our guidelines, a requirement to see how it performs, our current system, in the next couple of years. And then we can reassess the amounts and how many we award after we've seen it perform for a couple of years. But when we selected the amounts and the amounts that we're awarding for that higher tier, or that like the greater, more expensive projects, it was a balance we were trying to strike between helping, like the amount of money we have and the amount of people that we can help. So this is the first time that we're running that system, and we can explore maybe adjusting it as needed in a couple of years once we kind of see what the output is.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for staff? Seeing none, this will be our final meeting for the summer, and we will be back here in August, first Tuesday in August. And I wish you well. Have a very safe summer, and do a little heritage digging if you can, visiting. So thank you very much. Now, who would like to adjourn the meeting? Thank you, Natalie. All those in favor? Adjourned.